Welcome to Inner Peace Better Health. I am your host Shreya. Today we step into the mystery with Niels Vantzuriel, a guide who has spent over a decade leading women into Ireland's wild valleys and sacred landscapes. His work is not about retreats, it's about true initiations, ceremonies rooted in Celtic wisdom and ancient sites that awaken courage, renewal, and feminine leadership. Together, we'll explore what it really means to walk through life's thresholds with reverence and not just with resistance. So, welcome, Neil. I'm honored to have you on my show.
Riya, it is so good to speak with you and with your audience. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this one.
You describe these journeys as initiations rather than retreats. What is the core difference between this?
Well, there comes a time in every person's life that the way that you are living just doesn't feel right anymore. The way that you're inside of your life, it feels like an eggshell that has become too cramped. And it shows up everywhere in your life. It shows up in your family life, with your friends, in business, in your romantic relationships. It shows up everywhere. It just feels too small. And for those kinds of phases, a simple ceremony or a simple retreat where you have a fantastic experience, but it doesn't last, that kind of experience just isn't enough. So I'm thinking, for example, you go to maybe a music festival or a spiritual retreat of some kind, and you have a wonderful experience there. You have maybe an insight or a new technique or something like that. But the moment you come home again, your old life, that life that is too small, it keeps pressing on you, and it almost seduces you to that old way of being. It pulls you back again. And in that way, no real change was made. Now, rites of passage are a completely different way of doing ceremony. Ancestors, the ancients, knew this, that there would come a time in every person's life where the role that they were playing in their own lives and in the lives of other people just didn't fit anymore. And they needed to graduate to a new way of being or a higher way of being. And for those jumps, for those huge jumps in life where you were one person in one moment of your life, and now you need to show up in a different way. Either you're coming of age, you go from an apprentice to a master, or you become a warrior, or you become a wife, you become a mother. All of those huge jumps, they require a bigger form of ceremony, a time outside of normal time, a time outside of your normal life, to really make those changes stick. And that is the big difference here. So that's a long-winded way with a lot of context to say, on the one hand, you just have a fantastic experience, and that takes nothing away from the experience itself. But on the other hand, you have those times that you need something more. You need something that is lasting. And a rite of passage where you're out of your normal life for quite some time, 5 to 7 days, with the stated intention, I am going to now change. I'm going to be a different person when I come back. And then you work on that through very deep ceremony. And then you come back to your old life fully equipped to step into that new role. That is just a whole different ballgame that we're talking about.
And I think that's so profound. And initiation mark we become, not just where we have been. This is really wonderful. And can I share a moment when someone crossed a threshold that forever shifted their sense of self?
Yeah. I am so blessed to say that the way that me and my partner are doing this, it honestly, it happens quite often. Threshold, the first thing that I'm thinking about is the Latin word limen, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, but from that we get the English words liminal. So liminal place, liminal space, and liminal time. And that's really what this whole rite of passage, what these ideas for longer ceremonies are about. You're going to that threshold place, that in-between place, that transition place, both in your own life for this little bit out of time section of your life, and then you're going to a place ancient sites, ancient sacred sites that have been hidden that not many people go to do your ceremony. So both in liminal space and liminal time, you're at that threshold, you're in that transition, and you're in that in-between state. So when we take our people to these places, one of the most recent ones that I'm thinking of, beautiful young woman, came for us specifically because, again, her life was just going like, my life has been fantastic up until now, but I'm outgrowing it. And I'm outgrowing my relationship, and I want to make that next step with my partner, but I need to change. So that's where she started. And after day 3, that was locked down. She was so incredibly happy. And then the next level came in. We were able to log into and open up for her a higher version of herself to slowly step in. It sometimes happens. It doesn't always. It really depends upon the person, what they are ready for and how open they are. But in her case, something higher of herself came knocking, and blown away by the power and the transformation of this person. It's just, Shreya, I don't like the word life-changing because it's being used way too much in our modern day life. In the little town that I live in, we have a little chocolate shop, and they advertise with life-changing chocolate. So you hear here, life-changing is being used too much. We go to an event that advertises a revolution and we walk away with a flyer, or we go to a retreat that says life-changing and we walk away with an aphorism. But if you really take multiple days out of your normal life with this stated intention and go into deep trance work and go to these ancient sites, then really something quite deeper, life-changing can happen.
Yes, and I think that captures the essence of a rite, and it's not just time away, it's a rebirth into a new way of being. And also, Ireland's ancient sites carry such mystery. Why do you think the land itself holds transformative power?
Dear Ireland I like to say that Ireland has a very big place in the commons of our imagination. So it speaks to so many people from so many backgrounds. And I've had people here from literally all over the world, from Europe to Canada and the US to Russia to India, all kinds of people from every walks of life, and they all have this pull to this tiny little island. Why? I have my suspicions of why, and I'm going to go off on a little tangent, so please bear with me. I felt it too the first time that I came here. As you can hear from my accent, this is not an Irish accent. My wife is Irish. I work with her here on the land. But I myself am not Irish. I'm what is known as, in Irish mythology and Irish culture, as a grey dog. And that is an old way of saying, I am not from this place, but I at least have been accepted by the tribe of my wife. So if anything were to ever happen to me, I would get half the honor prize that my wife would get, because I'm still an outsider. But still, as an outsider, I went onto the land here and I was blown away by what I found. First up, you do really have to look. We have this idea in our minds that Ireland is just rolling green hills and castle after castle and beautiful cliffs. And the truth is, yes, those places do exist, but that very magical feeling that we have in our mind of what Ireland is, that is almost gone. And nowadays is 2 or 3 big cities, a lot of agriculture, almost no forests left. You really, really have to go to the edges of the island to still find those magical places. And those magical places that do still exist are oftentimes overrun by tourists. So you need to know the right people. So it took us more than a decade to find all of these places that still hold power. Now, to answer your question, why Ireland? The Irish have a concept that is known as the other world. Not the underworld, but the other world. And they call it Tir na Nog, which is the land of everlasting youth, or Macmel, the the Plains of Delight, I think that is in Old Irish. And this idea has to do with the fairies, the fair folk, the other beings, or the Aishi. Now, the Aishi are the people from the hills, from the ring force, the fairy force. And you might recognize the word banshee from this. So she is one of these fairy spirits, and a banshee is basically a woman fairy spirit. They always held open these gateways between the other world and this world. They used to rule Ireland before the Irish came here in Irish mythology. Now, I'm taking quite big strokes here with Irish mythology, but they used to rule here. When the modern-day Irish came here, they made a deal. You get above ground, and we, the Aishi, the fairy folk, we take the other world. And the way that you can get there is through these liminal places. So these liminal places would be stone circles, they would be stone rows, old portal tombs. They could be a river, they could be a bank of mist. Anything that makes a dent in the landscape, that changes the landscape from one way of being to another, is seen by the Old Irish as one of those entry points to the other world. And the thing is, Shreya, Ireland is absolutely littered with these places. We're talking more than 200,000 archaeological sites on an island that is honestly tiny. And all of these places in the imagination of the ancient Irish are these access points to the other world where their power can still be felt. And if you're not careful, you might be sucked into the other world. There is this incredible reverence still by the modern day Irish that you do not mess with the fairies, because the fairies are a little bit ambiguous. If you treat them right, they will treat you right. If you treat them wrong, oh, you better watch out. So this whole island is basically by itself, it is a threshold. It is a liminal space. It is one of these places where change can happen so quickly if you find the right spot and approach it in the right way. And I personally think that that is the reason why this land plays such a huge role in our common imagination. Of course, there is the Irish diaspora, but there's something more going on here. And you can only really tell the moment that you get to one of these forgotten places, those places where the tourists don't go, that are, honestly, between you and me, those places are energetically quite dead or dormant. It's the places that are not the big tourist attractions that you really have to hike to, put some effort in to get to, that are still brimming with power, and where you can have a lot of fun.
I think I love that image, and I think it suggests the land itself is a teacher carrying wisdom stories across generations. And have you witnessed a particular site evoke a universal response, almost as if the stones themselves were speaking?
You actually have multiple around here. So first up, you've got a few very big sites, and I hope that my microphone is not catching one of my cats going absolutely berserk at the moment. If it does, please excuse me. He's a chatty boy. He likes to interrupt. You've got to
That's
be
absolutely fine.
So we've got some very famous sites in Ireland that are older than the pyramids, that are enormous megalithic sites, and they are in the east of the country. And they are the ones that are the big tourist hotspots. They are the monuments of the Boyne Valley, things like Newgrange, Knowth and Douth. And they are huge portal tombs with a lot of petroglyphs, a lot of stone carvings, and that's where all the tourists go. If you go a little bit further west to the Atlantic coast, there are places that people do not go to, that even the locals no longer go to, because you just have to do a little bit of hiking. So you have to get lucky with the weather. In these places, here's the thing. Nowadays, if we walk up to one of these sites, we usually take something like a car or a tour bus or modern transportation. So it takes us nothing to just get out of the bus, walk for 5 minutes, touch a stone and then we are expecting a miracle to happen or to have our experience. That's not the way that these places were built. It's not the way that they were meant to be used. Now, honestly, between you and me, there's so much time that has passed between when these things were built and now that I cannot say categorically this is why they were built. But I can tell you the following. The way that you get far more out of these places is not by going there with a tour bus or with a car. You have to get physical. You have to approach them like the ancients did, and that is hike. Go on foot, get sweaty, take a little snack along, because the moment that you get so physical for more than half an hour and you start to walk, you already get into a different state of mind. And it's in those other states of consciousness, that's where the real magic happens. Then when you approach one of these places, it is no longer about, oh, I now want to have an experience. It is rather, you're very happy to be there, and that is when something can happen, because you are no longer the main character in this interaction, in this relationship between the sites and you. It is the place. You have put all this effort and trouble and blood, sweat, and tears. Well, okay, let's skip the blood, but a lot of energy to get to this place. So it's no longer about you. And that is the right relationship to have with these places. There is this idea, this concept in ancient Irish spirituality of right relationship. The idea that the whole cosmos is alive with different beings, and that the thing that is of most importance is that of being in right relationships with all of those different beings. If you approach one of these sites in this way, where it's not about you, but you're just happy to be there, and you're fully aware, I am not the first to be here. I won't be the last. I am in a very, very long line of men and women that have come here, who have made offerings, who have done their ceremonies. And after I am gone, there will be a string of other people, generations to come, because that's how all these places are. If that is the way that you hold it, and you sing the praise of these places, literally just saying or holding it as in, you are so beautiful, I am so happy that I'm here. Oh dear Lord, now we're talking about a different kind of relationship. And then even a tiny site like you have here on the West Coast, in comparison with those gigantic megalithic tombs in the East, even a small site that you have here, it can pack a punch. It really can.
I think that captures the essence of a rite, and it's not just time away, but it's a rebirth into a new way of being. And this is so beautiful. And just the way we explain it, it just makes the entire thing sounds so beautiful. And also for someone who is listening and who feels life has grown too small, what is the first step toward their own rite of passage?
Well, you don't have to come to Ireland. It's a beautiful place to do this, but the concept of the rite of passage is incredibly powerful. And I'm going to give you an idea. Now, at first glance, you might just think it can't be that powerful, but stick with this one. And it is the power of your own awareness, the power of witnessing something. And I'm going to try to tell this with a little story. I remember when I was a tiny little lad, I was playing chess with my grandfather, and I wasn't really good at chess. I really wasn't, but he indulged me. So he was trying to really test me, and at a certain moment, I had, with all of my pieces, finally cornered his queen. And he didn't say anything for about a minute, and then he looked up, and he basically just gave me a nod, going like, "See what you did there? Well done." Now, this is when I was 9. I am far from being 9 anymore. But later, that still stands out in my mind. And what I think that it is being witnessed, being the recipient of somebody's awareness. In my line of work, awareness is how we make things holy. It is our superpower as human beings to really elevate a moment. It is by witnessing someone, not just seeing, but truly beholding and witnessing. So to answer your question, Shreya, for you and your audience, how can you start that first step with your own rite of passage is to very clearly notice, hey, my life, it's gotten me to here with all of its ups, all of its downs, the beautiful, the bad, all of it. But the way that I'm doing things right now, it feels cramped. I know this is a dead end and I need to change. The people out there are not going to change. Better yet, they want to hold me in the old way of doing things, so I have to change. Now, the way that our ancestors did this was actually quite public. If you, as a young boy, went out for your first huge hunt, the whole tribe would see you come back, and either you succeeded or you didn't, but you went out and you came back, and the whole tribe now held you to a different way of being, a different role. So it was way easier to grow into that new way of being because you had that whole backing of the tribe because they were holding you, witnessing you. It was their awareness that helped. So what I would say first step, again, is acknowledge. And this is the thing that I say, it might sound trivial, but there is power in our awareness. Be aware of that feeling inside of, hey, I need to change. And it's not just a normal change. It is a profound one. That is your starting point. And then find somebody that can hold you through that whole process. If it's a bigger process, if it's a bigger change, that can witness you changing from who you were to who you are now wanting to become and can hold you accountable once you get out of that rite of passage. Because it's also easy to slip back if you do not have the tools, if the change hasn't gone deep enough, you need somebody on the outside to really pull you through to make that change last. That can be a woman's circle if you are going into something like menopause and you're stepping into your elder role. That can be your new family if you are just marrying and now you are stepping into the new role of husband or wife. So awareness and witnessing are superpowers. Don't underestimate them.
Yes. And I think that makes it deeply accessible. And thank you for guiding us through the power of initiation and the renewal. I think your work reminds us that transformation isn't just a destination, but a sacred journey we are all invited to take. And if after this beautiful conversation, my listeners want to connect with you, then what's the best way? Yes, and I will definitely make sure to attach all these details and links below so that the listeners can find them easily and get in touch with you. And thank you for giving them the offer that if they mention this about the show, there will be a very nice offer for them. This is
Yes.
really, really great. And to all my listeners, this conversation with Niels reminds us that change doesn't have to feel like loss. It can be sacred threshold. The stones, the valleys, and the ceremonies of Ireland may hold the mirror, but the transformation is within us. If you feel that call, don't ignore it. Step toward your own rite of passage because the life waiting on the other side may be the one you are always meant to live. Thank you.